Well, the New York City mayor's race is heating up as Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate, is trading attacks with President Trump. Now the focus is on the general election, where the socialist candidate set to face off against incumbent Eric Adams, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and one Republican and longtime New York City activist. Republican New York City mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa joins us now. Curtis, thanks for joining us this afternoon, or this morning, I guess it is still.
Oh, well, my pleasure. You know, I'm on my way to Coney Island while Eric Adams is in the Hamptons. Cuomo is missing in action. And Zohran is campaigning in his areas where there are a lot of Gen Zs, millennials, which I have access to. And unfortunately, the other campaigns have ignored, and that's why he's doing so well.
Were you surprised that he won? Do you think the city has changed over the last 20 years at all? Is this an indication of that?
Well, if you hang up in the suites where the power elite are, you'll have no idea the changes. But I'm the candidate of the streets, and I see them. Right outside of Fox News Channel, every night there's a halal cart. There's lines going around the block. These are Muslim businessmen who voted for Trump in the presidential election. But because of the just unbelievable attacks against the religion of Zohran, the Muslim faith, and how they identify culturally, you are pushing these conservative Muslims, of which you're a million in New York City, and many of them are registered to vote, into the Zohran camp. Major mistake. I saw that one video where he was eating with his hands. I don't think people out there realize there are a lot of legal immigrants from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Yemen, who still eat with their hands. It's a cultural thing. Attack the policies of Zohran. Don't attack the religion. Don't attack the culture.
Curtis, I want to get your take on this. Mayor Adams is calling for an investigation into Columbia University's application review process after it was leaked that on his application form in, I think, 2009, Mamdani checked a couple of boxes, African American as well as Asian, and Mayor Adams is taking deep offense to that. He said, quote, the African American identity is not a checkbox of convenience. It is a history, a struggle, and a lived experience. For someone to exploit that for personal gain is deeply offensive. Now, Mamdani told the New York Times, here was his explanation. He said, most college applications don't have a box for Indian Ugandans, so I checked multiple boxes trying to capture what he says the fullness of my background. By the way, according to the New York Times, he wasn't accepted at Columbia, but is this an issue that you have as well?
Well, wait a second. He wasn't accepted. His father, a professor of African studies, he didn't benefit from that legacy like we know a lot of Democrats and Republican children have over the years. He got rejected by Columbia. He had to go to Bowdoin up in Maine. So the fact is, if you make this the issue, you split hairs. He said he was an African American. Okay, that was a mistake. He said he was Asian. He is Southeast Asian from India, his parents. And he did put the box, he checked the box later on in the transcript that he was Ugandan. But he didn't take a seat of an African American, Eric Adams and Cuomo, because he wasn't accepted in Columbia. All you're doing is making him a martyr. You're victimizing him. You're just growing his support on really a non-issue. Stick to the issues. The fact that he wants to defund the police. The fact that he wants supermarkets that are owned by the city. The fact that he wants to tax homeowners in white predominant areas. Stay focused on the issues. Adams and Cuomo, by launching this attack, are helping to make him the next mayor of New York City. I'm the only one who stands in his way because I stick to the issues.
And he's reversed on the defund, but he hasn't really explained that journey. But I do want to get you a little bit more on this. Do you think in that same vein, do you think that some of the calls we've heard from the White House to investigate his citizenship, or if he doesn't cooperate with ICE, to threaten to arrest him, does that also work in that same favor?
Yesterday, I was in Zohran land, Brooklyn, Queens, right before the start of the fireworks, you know, which was on both sides of the East River. All you do is you make him a martyr. And then he stands up against the president, Donald Trump, instead of being forced to defend his policies, which will destroy New York City. So for New York City, which is not a big Trump area, the rest of the country certainly is, the rest of the New York State is Trump land, but not New York City. You just strengthen him and embolden him. Stick to the issues and he can't be defeated. but create this image that he's going to be deported, he's going to be sent to that super gulag in El Salvador, you will bring out a vote like you never heard of. And again, hipsters, millennials, Gen Z are the majority of our citizens now, the majority of the voters. I'm a baby boomer, and I have to constantly remind them, many of you have fled to Florida. Unfortunately, some of us have died. We're no longer the majority. We have to get more Gen Z and millennials, which is what my campaign does. The Adams campaign rejects him, and Cuomo, he's hiding out in the Hamptons. He's trying to figure out what to do.
Curtis Sliwa, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.